Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, nuts, lacers, peasants, vassals, minions, those that it has occurred to. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about Kurdistan. And before I do, I want to say hello to all my Kurdish friends out there. I hope you're still out there, particularly my first Kurdish friend, 91 Music Boy. And I'll attach his link to his channel below because he posts historic traditional Kurdish music. And it's really wonderful. So anyway, but let's move on. The Kurdish region of northern Iraq, which is, for all intents and purposes, an independent country now, continues to move forward to become a completely independent country. And as just to kind of loosely reference some of my previous videos about Kurdistan, of course, Kurdistan is a region that's almost been a country on numerous occasions. And right after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, there briefly was a Kurdistan, and unfortunately through politics it ended up being a dream that disappeared quickly. It is now divided between Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. And the largest, supposedly the largest population of people in the world who do not have their own country at this moment. But anyway, so we have the northern area of Iraq, which is the closest to an independent Kurdistan as we have right now. And there's a number of things, reasons why we would say that. They have their own parliament, they have their own government, they have their own president, they have their own powerful armed forces, the Peshmerga, their own language. And their capital, Erbil, is coming to be the rival of some of the more majestic Arab cities, or I shouldn't say Arab, but some of the more majestic cities in the Middle East. Incredible housing or construction boom, I should say construction boom, going on in Erbil, and a lot of investment. And interestingly enough, about 70% of their investment comes from Turkey. So this adds to the complex relationship that Turkey has with their Kurds and the Kurdish region of Iraq. But I'll get more to that, back to that later. But first of all, let's look at some of the events. So last May, the Kurdish region of Iraq announced, despite threats from Baghdad, the sale of 1 million barrels of Kurdish oil that had been stored in Turkey. And the U.S. also had issues with this move. And it involves a pipeline that's been built from Erbil, the capital of Kurdistan, to a Turkish port. And so they've gone ahead with that sale. And it's very telling, because if Kurdistan can get this oil flow going on their own through Turkey, then it gives them a lot more financial independence. And that's part of the squabble they're having with Baghdad. And also in May, Barzani had been in Europe garnering support, meeting with the French and the British. And Barzani also told Kurdish political parties that if Maliki wins the third term, the Kurds will hold a referendum for independence. So he actually said that in May. And it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to turn out to be true, but it's interesting to hear the language that's being used. And there's lots of people talking in those terms. We have an energy specialist outside of the Kurdish government who says, quote, "It all depends on the circumstances under which the Kurds declare independence. If it comes about as a general collapse in Iraq, it makes it much easier for countries like Iran or Turkey to recognize the new government. That also applies to the Gulf states. It is very different, however, if it comes about as a result of a direct dispute between functioning governments in Baghdad and in Irbil." So that is a very telling quote there, because it very well could come about as a general collapse of Iraq. We're seeing the disintegration, deterioration in Iraq as we speak. I've read some more reports today of more strikes and more violence, and so this year is going to turn out to be even more destructive than last year, as the government loses control of more and more territory in Iraq, and this sets up the circumstances by which Kurdistan could make its move. Ali Balu formerly in charge of Iraqi Parliament Oil and Gas Committee, said, quote, Kurdistan is going to be rid of its status as a region within Iraq. A plan is underway for Kurdistan to be an independent state in the near future, unquote. And so seems to have some credibility as far as a position, and to make a bold statement like that. Like I say, we're seeing these events line up pretty dramatically, and I think if the situation in Iraq continues to deteriorate, we're going to see the Kurds do what they've done historically. And it's interesting. I've studying the history of all the Kurdish regions in all these countries in the Middle East. It was interesting to find out that whenever there was internal struggles, almost inevitably the Kurds would see it as another chance to try and get independence. And this time seems to be no exception. So it has a lot of historic precedence. And then in April, Barzani stated that, quote, a Kurdish state is on the way, unquote, echoing the other guy's statement. And committees are being formed to study methods and possibilities for setting up a sovereign state. That's also been declared. So they're making these moves public too, so that gives it a lot more meaning. And all the political parties in Kurdistan apparently are now making independence part of their agendas. And so that political thrust in galvanizing the popular opinion will continue to move Kurdistan towards independence. And Iraq, of course, continues to relate to Kurdistan as just another province. But as I mentioned, for all intents and purposes, it's already another country. And part of the reasons why we're having these clashes is a number of things. One is clashes over territories that are outside of the Kurdish region of Iraq right now, that they claim as part of their region. And Kirkuk, which is the oil-rich region of Kirkuk, is one of them. And we've seen a face-off before a couple of years ago between huge amounts of Iraqi and Kurdish forces, in the tens of thousands facing off over that region before. And it was over the same issues about these independent oil contracts in Kurdistan doing independent oil deals outside of the Iraqi constitution and the Iraqi government in Baghdad. And so we have the territory clashes and claims. We have the independent sale of oil claims, and then of course getting down to the money, follow the money. It turns out that the government in Baghdad has been blackmailing Kurdistan by punishing them. Kurdistan is supposed to get 17% of the Iraqi budget, and 1 million civil servants in Kurdistan depend on that. And to retaliate for the sale of oil, the Baghdad government withheld a lot of that money from Kurdistan. So we have some incitement here, we have some drama, and these are the kind of events that could lead to an independent Kurdistan. And as I've mentioned in all my other videos about Kurdistan, it's one of those things where we could either see it slowly build up, which we're actually seeing right now, or you could just wake up one day and find out that they've declared an independent republic. But like I say, I agree with the observer who says that if Kurdish independence came about as a result of a direct dispute between the functioning governments in Baghdad and Irbil, Kurdistan and Iraq, then that would be a whole different ball game, and probably involve a conflict. And frankly, I would put my money on the Peshmerga and Kurdistan to win any military conflict. Certainly the Iraqi military would not be that motivated, and the Kurdish military beats Iraq military on every conceivable level. So it wouldn't be much of a fair fight. So the reduction of the oil wealth share going to Kurdistan is also part of this dispute, of course, as it always is. And U.S. publicly supports the integrity of Iraq, and that's what they state, and they don't publicly support the independence of Kurdistan. But I think behind the scenes, I think the United States very much would like to see independent Kurdistan, and the same goes for Turkey. They have a really interesting relationship with Kurdistan. They want this energy from Kurdistan. They have 70% of investment in Kurdistan is Turkish. They're looking at the long term, and it could, in the long term, it could also help the chances that Turkey may end up, if an independent Kurdistan gets created in northern Iraq, they may very well negotiate something so that part of Turkish territory, and that might be a pipe dream. I might be dreaming. But we've seen a lot of things that are pretty interesting and strange in geopolitical events. So we don't want to rule out any possibility. And another interesting part of that, as a matter of fact, is that a Iraqi paper reported that Barzani, the president of Kurdistan, has signed a secret agreement with Turkey to trade support for secession and independence for Kurdistan for Kurdish oil. And I've only seen that source and one other for it, so who's to say if that's true or not, but it sounds like it could be true. And once again, it shows the complexities of the relationships between these countries who are supposedly adversaries and supposedly allies. It's always a lot more complex between them. And right now, relationship between Turkey and Kurdistan has been very good, which is interesting in light of the fact that Turkey has had such a rocky relationship with the Kurds in their own country. So anyway, the question becomes: is there going to be a slow process forward towards independence? Is there going to be a war between Kurdistan and Iraq? Are they going to move towards more of a confederation, giving Kurdistan even more autonomy than it has now? Right now, Iraq's bogged down in violence and war, and these occupied territories, and if the security situation continues to deteriorate, it seems to me that Kurdistan may very well take advantage of that. And just as recently as June 5th, Barzani denied that oil exports, these independent oil exports, are a prelude to Kurdish independence. But the fact is, it would give them a great deal of energy independence, and it's politically smart for him, of course, to do that. This is the same tactic we see all politicians around the world use. He denies that it's a prelude to Kurdish independence, which means it probably is. So, and Baghdad has a lot to fear. If the power center of that region moves to the capital of Kurdistan and away from Baghdad, they're going to find it even much harder to keep their country stable and deal with all the problems they have right now. So there we have it. Independent Kurdistan. There's some saying that it could happen within 5 years. That seems to be what was speculated on last February, that independence could happen in 5 years by 2019. But I say independence could happen any time between now and 2019. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.